For those of you that are new here, I'm Brian Karanja. I'm a real estate consultant and investor with a decade experience in real estate consultancy. And over that period, I have overseen a number of successful projects. I have overseen sales and marketing strategies for some of Nairobi's most prominent developments. And I've also helped hundreds of investors find their ideal investment properties, and in the same breath, helped hundreds of homeowners find their perfect homes. So on today's topic, we'll be talking about what are some of the most important things that one should consider before buying a property. And number one is you need to find out about the history of the property. So if you're buying an off-plan development, it is very important, first of all, in this instance, because it's an ongoing development, to find out the history of the developer. What projects have they done before? How are they financing that particular project that you're interested in buying? Have they been known to do good quality? Have they been known to finish their developments on time? These are very important factors and questions that one should ask before you buy. This is in the instance of an off-plan development. If you're buying a complete property that is already in existence, then it is very important for you to find out the history of that particular property. So again, for a complete property, you need to check the conditions. Has this house been well maintained? Does it have water leakages? Does it have any electrical problems that need to be addressed? What is the condition if it is, in this instance, if you're looking at a standalone unit, what is the roof looking like? What is the paint condition of the house? How much will you need to reinvest in the house to bring it to the standard that you would desire? Checking all those factors is very important before you make your purchase. The number two factor that you need to consider is the location. So if it is an investment property, for example, does the location have high demand in terms of rent? Is it an area that a lot of people are looking to rent into? How accessible is the location of the property that you want to buy? Because we have had it said that there are three things that one needs to consider before making that investment. And those three things are location, location, location. Because location is what gives the property that you're going to buy the value. It is based on the location that your property will derive its value, both in terms of the price and both in terms of the kind of rental yield that you would expect to buy. So for example, properties that are near and within the CBD tend to be more pricey as compared to properties that are further away from the city's hub. Another thing that you need to consider while you're looking at the location, how well serviced is that location? What is the transport network like? Schools, good schools, from hospitals, from shopping malls, from entertainment joints. These things you must consider when you're looking at a particular location before you make your first purchase. Number three is that you need to consider the financial aspects of that transaction. Reason being, first of all, in the previous video, we talked about having a budget in mind. So it is very important to know how much in total that you're willing to spend in terms of your investment. If you're a mortgage buyer, for instance, or if you plan to finance your purchase through mortgage, probably you've paid 50% cash and you want to borrow the other 50%, it would be very important to check what are the current mortgage rates and which financial institution is giving comparative rates. Another very important factor to consider that I had not considered when I was making my first purchase is the closing costs. What do we mean by closing costs? The closing costs are the costs associated with the transaction that usually are paid towards the very end. And this includes the government tax, which is usually referred to as a stamp duty. You need to consider the legal costs. And these are monies that are paid to the conveyancing lawyer who will be handling the conveyancing matters regarding the development in which you're trying to purchase. You also need to consider, if it is an investment property, what are the rental yields like in that particular area? if it is a house that you're buying for your own occupation, and maybe it's not in the state and condition that you'd want it to be to suit your lifestyle, you need to consider how much would it cost you to upgrade. This is the instance that you're buying an old house, to upgrade that house to the standard that fits and suits your lifestyle. So all these financial aspects need to be considered before you make the transaction. So number 4, this applies mostly for new developments and especially off-plan developments. Like I mentioned in the previous video, it is very important for you to get an idea of what kind of previous projects the current developer that you want to buy from has done, what has been the quality of the projects that they have been producing, have they met the timelines. Again, before you buy, this is in the instance of, again, an off-plan development. It is very important to consider what other things or fixtures come with a property that you're going to buy. So for example, it is very important to consider what kind of amenities are you going to get. Does the development come with a fully fitted gym? Does it come with a swimming pool? Have they provided for a place for a children's play area, a sublease or a sectional title? These are very important factors that one needs to consider. Number 5, this is a very, very important point to consider, is the sale agreement. You need to consider the sale agreement. Why am I saying this? The sale agreement is very important. It is because the sale agreement is actually the legal binding document between you and I and the developer or the vendor. The sale agreement is a very important document because if you end up signing a document first that it has clauses that are not very fair to you and me as the purchasers, then it becomes very difficult for us to get out of. And I have seen in the last decade that I've been in real estate consultancy, people who have signed sale agreements that are actually very punitive, and you end up losing money. What do I mean by that? So some of the sale agreements will have very punitive clauses when it comes to the exit clause. Every good sale agreement should have an exit clause. But you'll find some developers will instruct their lawyers to have in place in the sale agreement very punitive clauses that in the event that you are not able to proceed with the transaction, you could end up losing quite a bit of money. The current standard practice is in the event that you're not able to proceed with a sale, usually you forfeit 10% of the purchase price. But I have seen an instance where people have lost more than 30 or 40% of not the deposit that they have paid, but of the purchase price that of the purchase price of the property that they were intending to buy or to invest in. The sale agreement also is very important because it is the same document that stipulates what you will get, what the vendor or the developer is selling you, what comes with your property, what fixtures come with the property, the number of parking spaces, for example, how many parking slots will you get when you buy that particular property that you intend to buy. The sale agreement also stipulates the size of the units that you want to buy. So the sale agreement is a very, very important document because if you do not scrutinize that document in the manner that it should be, and you end up signing a document that is not very fair to you, then this is what I talked about in the previous video, where you'll end up making a very costly mistake. In the event you want to pull out, then it will be so difficult for you to pull out, and you might end up losing quite a bit of money. You'll find some developers completely restrict you and I as a buyers what we can do with our space. So for example, you cannot convert that house into an office because you're buying into a residential development. I have seen also in some sales agreement where the developers strictly forbid buyers from converting their property into an Airbnb property. So you need to know what are the restrictions when it comes to leasing out, if you're buying for investment, that particular property.